Welcome everybody. My name is Cheyenne Dunn and you're joining us in the Media Center of Holyoke High School. Today we have Ed Caisse and Bridget Burke with us from the Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative. Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. For people who do not know, tell us about the Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative.
Yeah, so before I explain about the initiative, I'd like to say I've been working at the Sheriff's Department for 26 years. And I've had the ability, especially over the last 13 years, to work with a population of inmates that at the end of the day, I said, that guy never had a shot. You know, guys coming from the toughest neighborhoods of Holyoke and Springfield, growing up in poverty, growing up in really tough situations inside their household, inside their neighborhoods, you know, guys that I would say he never had a chance, you know what I mean? So what we want to do is, and with the initiative, is try to develop relationship with both youth and families and try to get youth connected to positive activities and to better places and to help the families get connected to those. So the Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative is really a coalition of people working together to try to make an impact in a community.
I like that. What do you think your main goal in general would be?
Yeah, so the main goal is to be able to identify the youth that need us the most and identify and develop relationships through activities. So we do basketball leagues. The kids want to play basketball. We want to get to know the kids. We want to be able to be role models for the kids. We want to be able to give them encouragement. We want to be able to teach them something about life, that they don't have to let the things that they've been exposed to, maybe growing up in poverty, maybe growing up in a single family household, maybe growing up in a neighborhood that's got a lot of violence and drug dealing, maybe have witnessed violence. So we want to encourage them that they don't have to let those things that they've been exposed to actually define who they become. My perspective is, the guys that end up incarcerated, they allowed those factors, you know, growing up in those neighborhoods and getting pulled into a life of gang membership, criminal activity, and crime in general, drug dealing. So they let it define who they became, and then the root cause of that is they end up incarcerated. So through my working with high-risk offenders, as I identify what the root causes are, I'm saying to myself, geez, if we go out there and work closer with the youth and families and try to help them get to better places, to be an encouragement for them, to give them hope, to educate them and motivate them to want more in life, then we can turn this thing around. We can prevent our next generation of youth from ever being incarcerated.
It's a lot, very powerful. Why do you think it's important for people and other organizations to really get involved into your program?
When you take a close look at what the issues are in the community, like we look at economics, you know, I mean, geez, we were trying to get approved so we can build 2 new middle schools. When you look at economics, when you look at crime issues, when you look at the issues, when I look at what leads people to teenage pregnancy and going down the wrong roads that end up getting them to drop out of school or become incarcerated, you realize that the issues are really complex, they're comprehensive, and the only way we're ever going to turn anything around, I don't think the school department has all the resources that they need. I don't think a boys club or the YMCA or a sheriff's department or a police department, I don't think one agency can actually deal with all the comprehensive issues that our community is faced with. But I believe that all the different agencies working together, like if we end up getting the youth and we know what he needs to get connected to, by having a relationship with the other agencies, we can get that youth and maybe his family connected to resources that can help get him to better places. So without a multitude of agencies working together, we just can't get the job done.
How do you think teenagers or really high school kids could help, whether it be you or the program in general? Like, what do you think that they could do?
You know, when I talk about the Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative and some of the goals that we're trying to accomplish, like a safer community, a healthier community, a more economically viable community, if we can get youth to really get motivated, to really think about graduating high school, think about a future outside of what they see in their neighborhoods and wanting to set goals to graduate high school, go on to college or the military or a vocational school, but them not becoming part of the problem and them being part of the solution. So the more kids that we can get to graduate and not have teenage pregnancy or not to become incarcerated, they're already going to make our community more economically viable, because it takes billions and billions of dollars to be able to deal with teenage pregnancy, to be able to deal with alcohol and drug addiction, to be able to deal with incarceration. But if we can get the kids to focus on being a positive, productive members in the community and being successful, they're going to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. But there's a lot of ways youth can get involved. I mean, youth can get involved directly in the work that we're doing. I look out and I see somebody that plays in our basketball league, and we're always looking for somebody to keep the scorebook or the clock, you know, so there's ways of getting involved. Or a high school, somebody who has a passion for playing basketball maybe can come out and be a coach for a 3rd and 4th grade team or a 5th and 6th grade team. Just when projects come up, I mean, we're always looking to get the youth feedback because the youth perspective to us is very important. You know, and I think when the youth looks up to some of us that are older, you know, they know that there's a gap. Their ways of thinking and our ways of thinking are just a little different. It doesn't mean one is right and the other one is wrong, but if we can bring it all together, if we can get the youth perspective and all their ideas towards, you know, dealing with the issues in our community, we believe we can have a stronger community. So one of the upcoming projects we have is Bridget is actually working on a mapping project where we want to get a cohort of high school students, maybe 4, 5, or 6, where they can come together once a week for about 4 weeks to help us map out resources in our community. So I don't know if Bridget wanted to talk a little bit more about what that youth mapping project is.
Yeah, so the Youth Mapping Project is really all about getting the students involved and having it be a student-led project and identifying different resources within the community, bringing adults from those resources in, having the youth interview those adults to see what their resources offer, how to get involved in those resources. And it's also a good preventative piece where getting connected to those agencies, maybe it could lead to an internship, maybe it could lead to a very healthy relationship with an adult and teenager. Anything positive from it will really help the prevention aspect of it also.
Awesome. Do really either of you have any advice for students who might be struggling to break down these barriers?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, and that's one of the things that we try to provide with the different agency partnerships that we have is trying to build support systems for both youth and families. So, you know, one of the things I noticed in working with inmates down the road is that they didn't have really good, strong support systems. In fact, outside of their household, they didn't really have a lot of caring adults in their lives. So we are working to try to build support systems for youth. So what we say is if youth could, you know, youth that are struggling or need some additional support, don't be too proud or don't be afraid to ask for some help. There's certainly a lot of faculty here that can actually get them connected to us and other agencies that would be willing to work with them to help build a support system, to help them set goals and get to a place where they can accomplish all the goals that they actually set and become positive, productive members in our community and be successful. You know, when I talk to young people, like I look out and I see some young people sitting in chairs, and the reality is 100% of them right now don't ever have to be incarcerated in the Hampden County Sheriff's Department. 100% of them can get focused on having a successful career, and they can accomplish it, whether it's through education in a conventional, you know, college or a vocational training or the military. 100% of them could be successful in working a job and not to have to experience a lot of negativity, and certainly the negativity and trauma that comes from being incarcerated.
Is there anything else you guys yourselves would like to add before we open the floor up for questions?
Bridget, anything?
I think you covered a lot of it. I think really just not being too proud is a big part of it, you know, letting your guard down, even if it's with one adult that you feel safe with. That one adult can connect you to so many positive people, and maybe you don't have to open up completely to all of them, but having that one person that you can be open and honest with can really make an impact in the future.
Yeah, the one thing that I would want to say, you know, working with, you know, the clients that I work with at the Sheriff's Department, a lot of guys think because they made a mistake that there's not a lot of opportunities available to them. So my message to young people is, even if you made a mistake, and even if you had to have some interactions with the juvenile justice system, you know, had to go to juvenile court for something you made, you don't have to let that mistake define what the outcome's going to be. Even if you made a mistake, especially for young people, people are going to be very forgiving. And like I say, there could be young people sitting in our audience today that some may have had some negative interactions with the criminal justice system and in juvenile court. But I can say with confidence today that 100% of them, if they make up their mind that they want to turn away from what led them into juvenile court, they can absolutely succeed. And there are people that are willing to stand side by side with them them, make phone calls, knock on doors, do whatever they need to do to help them build a system to be able to get them to where they need to go or where they would like to go.
We're now going to open up the floor for any questions if anybody has any.
So you were talking about economics and not getting any funding for like these programs. So what are you doing in order to like try to convince or try to get to be able to get this funding?
Yeah, so one of the things we do is, you know, what we've learned over the years is that's the other thing I could have said in that question about why it's important for agencies to go together. When you look at state and federal funding, the state and the federal, they would like to see agencies working together. So what we try to do is we try to develop real close working relationships with some of these agencies, and we apply for some state funding and some federal funding.
I wanted to talk to you, Bridget. As somebody who is still kind of thinking about like criminal justice careers and maybe something in the sheriff's department, what do you think about opportunities for women and how, not flexible, but how do you think that it is diversifying or working with women in general?
That's a great question. That's actually something I was a little bit nervous about going into my internship. I wasn't quite sure how many women were involved with it. In my internship in the courts during my undergrad, it was very women prominent. I was in the clerk's office and I was a little bit nervous about going into the jail. But I found that it's very equal for women within the jail. I get treated exactly the same as the men. I get all of the same opportunities. Ed has made sure to connect me with so many women within the jail even to see their perspective and keep me included in everything. So I think that even being a female within the criminal justice aspect, that we definitely have a fair shot. We just have to make our voice known just as the men do.
Awesome. I also wanted to ask, where can we reach you guys?
Yeah, so we actually have a website, www.shsni.org. Folks could call me directly. My work phone number is 413-858-0225. And my website, my email address is ed.caisse@sdh.state.ma.us. So certainly if anybody wants to contact me or has some questions, I have an open door.
Awesome. And you, Bridget?
I can definitely be contacted through Ed. His email or my direct line at the jail is 413-858-0988.
Awesome. If anybody else has any questions, now's the time. No? Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us. It's really awesome to know that there are people that have our backs and want to help us, especially growing up in a city like Holyoke that doesn't really have as much as other towns do. You guys have also been very good friends with Holyoke Public Schools, and for that I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
So thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.